Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week where we take a look at the coolest new knives that have hit our shelves in the last week. Let's check them out. Alright, the first thing I want to show you today is the new KnifeCenter exclusive release of the Reich knife two-lay with red G10 and carbon fiber handles. Now this comes in at $150, and the star of the show are those handles, because this is the world's first integral G10 flipping knife. Check that out. Really cool. It's just like an integral titanium knife, except made out of G10. You've got a single piece handle construction. It wraps around the spine, so you have no seam there, and you've just got a really solid foundation to build the rest of the knife on. It looks really cool too with the way they've done these handle materials. You've got that, I said red, but it's actually a red and black G10. You can see there those layers on the spine itself. And then they've put those carbon fiber inlays on there. Just a really striking and distinctive look overall. It fits in the hand nicely, definitely enough length to get your work done there, but it's not super bulky at the same time, so it's a good trade-off there. And one of the nice things about an integral handle that it kind of shares somewhat with two-piece handle designs, but definitely an advantage over an open-backed design that uses barrel spacers as standoffs, is there's no gap right there, so that's one less opportunity for creating a hot spot when you're really gripping this knife hard and you really want to put some hard work in with your blade. On top of that, of course, we do have a pocket clip to carry this knife. It's a right side tip up only design, but it is deep carry, which is quite nice. And as for the locking, you get an inset liner lock here, or maybe not, inset's not quite the right word, but you can see that the liner lock there is anchored here onto the inside of that integral handle. Lockup is nice and solid, and the action is really good on this knife too. You can see we kind of have this sort of hoop-shaped flipper tab right here. Flips that blade open very nicely, ball bearings in the pivot. Definitely nothing to complain about there. Now, the handle's cool, but I'm especially a fan of this blade. The steel's 154 cm, comes in about 3 5/8 of an inch long, and the shape and the geometry of it is spot on. This is a very slicing ready knife. It's not an overbuilt sharpened pry bar, as you can see. It's fairly thin. We're at 0.117 of an inch, so not quite a full 1/8 of an inch thick, but it doesn't feel like it's that thick. The reasons for that are twofold, essentially. We have a really high flat grind, along with this nice deep swedge here right in front of the thumb ramp itself. Gives it a really good slicing geometry. Nice and steep angles means it's going to go through material very easily, and that swedge there is going to remove a drag point as you move through some materials, which is quite nice. And then on top of that, the edge, super thin. I'm really impressed with how consistent and how thin this entire batch has been. Really cool. If you're looking for a stylish piece that's strong but is still built to slice like any good knife should, definitely check this knife out. KnifeCenter exclusive release right here. If, however, you want to go on the opposite end of the spectrum and you want something big and overbuilt, you like the idea of a pocket tank, I almost feel like I don't need to say much. Check this out. This is the new Halfbreed Blades large bush flipper. It's based on their large bush fixed blade, now in a folding form. Comes in $365, which actually is a pretty decent price considering how large this is and the materials you're getting. Let me just take a look at the side profile of this handles. You can see they're nice and beefy, but I guess you could call them chunky, but they're not actually uncomfortable. They're actually a lot more comfy than I expected when picking it up. Part of that is probably how broad they are, and also the shoulders are rounded over pretty nicely, and it really does come together into a knife that you have a really full grip on. I mean, there's some hardworking fixed blades out there that I've held that have been less comfortable than this folder. Now there's a few different colors available. This is titanium. This particular one they call the dark earth titanium, but actually has a bit of a gold hue to it. The others, there's a standard black handle, as well as one that's a bit more kind of a matte gray. But it's listed, I think, as some kind of like Ranger green actually. But if you're looking for that matte gray, that's the color you want. The pictures really show off what you're getting though. But yeah, 3 different colors. You've got this pivot point or this depression on each side of the scales. Now, if this were a fixed blade, I'd say that was a bow drill divot to help with your friction fires. And you could still technically do that. But One thing this does is, otherwise you've got a pretty flat titanium scale, and actually my middle finger indexes in that divot very nicely. Gives you a little bit more grip and also helps you, index the knife. It helps you tell where you're holding things a little bit better. And also it provides a good point for pivoting moves when you're manipulating the knife as well. Rounding out the handle, we've got a nice beefy liner lock there, as you can tell, nice and thick. And last but not least, we've got a hardened steel backspacer. It's actually Bowler K110, which is equivalent of D2, hardened and PVD coated, and that terminates, I should say, in a skull crusher / glass breaker type of pommel right there. You've got that apex that's gonna really concentrate all your force onto one spot. I said that was the last thing on the handle, but actually we have a pocket clip as well. Right side tip up, a bit on the slim side, just gonna carry and extricate very smoothly thanks to the finish of that handle. As for the blade itself, I almost feel like I haven't spent enough time talking about the blade because the handle is so impressive. A bit over 4 inches, S35 VN, which means this knife has been pretty much all around the world. S35 VN, of course, is an American steel. The parts for this knife were built in Taiwan, and then everything was put together, tuned, and finished in Australia. So it's been all over the place before it made its way back here to us in order to get it out to you guys. We've got S35 VN steel with a black PVD coating, and it's really thick, about 5.5 millimeters. This is one of those sharpened pry bars out there. It can take, I can't tell you for sure because I haven't done it myself, but this should be able to absolutely withstand a ton of abuse. In order to keep it still somewhat of a decent slicer, they've given it a fairly deep hollow grind so that it's not too thick right behind the edge and you can still get your day-to-day cutting done. As far as how the knife manipulates, it's definitely not a lightweight, you can imagine. I hesitate to even tell you how heavy it is. 16.64 ounce. This is a 1 pound folder, you guys. That just makes me smile. But even despite all of that, the flipping is pretty decent. It's not super crisp, but the momentum of that blade, once you break through the detent, really carries things through quite nicely. Now you can also open it with those thumb studs, of course, and in addition to that, you've got that fuller on the blade. You could use that as a thumb opener if you wish as well. Now, as I said, the handle's comfortable and it's also nice and roomy. My slightly bigger than average hands definitely have plenty of room, and then we've still got a huge finger choil here up at the front. Now, normally I say that finger choil, it'll help you choke up to get finer control of the blade, especially the tip. I almost feel like that's not the case here because you do have a bit of weight in the handle you're going after, but you do have that option there. You get a little bit more control, but I actually find the balance a little bit better if I'm just holding the handle regularly. All right, again, we're gonna make a big jump to the opposite end of the spectrum and go down to a nice petite little guy. A little bit more friendly for EDC in terms of what I would typically be looking for. This is the Sharp by Design Micro Evo Typhoon, which is of course a design by Brian Nadeau, coming in right now at $350. So that's actually kind of funny, the dichotomy there. $365 for the big Halfbreed, $350 for the Micro Evo Typhoon. But anyway, the blade on this guy, just under 3 inches, nice, easy to carry shape, full flat grind, M390 steel. And we've got a titanium handle with sort of this embossed texture here where in sort of the shape of what an inlay would be. And it creates a pretty good grip. It's about a 3.5 finger grip in my hands, but it feels nice and secure. You've got some contouring or some radius to the slabs of titanium, so it's not a chunky small flipper. It just fits in very nicely. Things there are completed by a nice milled titanium pocket clip. It's got a nice swoopy and elegant look, as well as a lanyard attachment point there, right there, near the end of the knife. Titanium lock bar, of course, and you've got your very common lock bar insert there that also acts as your over travel arrestor. And my favorite thing about this knife, that it's gonna be hard to come across in video, but the action is so nice. It's just such a small but definitive little click. It's just, I like it. I like it a lot. Very smooth, very crisp, and nice feeling overall. But for a premium gentleman's knife or EDC, this is definitely a very fine option, put together extremely well. Build quality is very good. These are actually built by Reich knives for Sharp by Design, and if you're familiar with what they do, you know it's all top notch. So speaking of another one of the imported Chinese brands, we've got a new variant of the WE Knife Company Angst flipper, which is a Justin Lundquist design, now available here with a black stone washed blade with carbon fiber handles and G10 inlays. They kind of flip the script a little bit there, which is kind of cool. Creates a cool look, and it also contributes to this knife being very lightweight. 1.8 ounces, that's Benchmade bug out territory. So it's clip it to your pocket and you're gonna forget it's there until you need it, and then it's right there. Pull it out, you've got that S35 VN blade, as I said, just over 3 inches. You've got this nice acute dagger profile, excellent for piercing, of course, and the edge geometry is gonna be pretty decent too, because the blade stock is nice and thin, and that sort of dagger grind is gonna create a kind of diamond shaped geometry. Again, kind of like a big swedge. You're gonna be able to move through material pretty nicely. We've got an inset liner lock in those handles and a nice flipping action. Now you do have 2 little tabs sticking out here, and if you wanted to use one of these as sort of a pocket deployer akin to like an Emerson Wave, you can, but it's a little bit finicky. It's not as definitive. You have to be kind of just right in order to get it, because as you can see, there's a little bit of a slant away from that sort of direction of travel, I should say. But the flipping action, it's very good. It's a wee knife. It's about what you'd expect. The action is quite nice. And the price on this, pretty decent too, coming in at $157. This actually starts a bit of a trend in the long pointy category. We kind of have a few long pointy things this week. The next being actually, I don't remember whether this is new or whether this is a restock. But anyway, you can get it now. The Real Steel G-Slip slip joint. Of course, a very modern interpretation of the classic slip joint, coming in at $59.60 right now. Handles, of course, as you can see, are orange G10, and the blade is VG10, coming in about 3.5 inches. You've got a drop point profile with a nice high flat grind, or a full flat grind, in fact, and gonna make it a pretty good slicer. As far as the walk and talk, it's pretty good. It's not like a super snappy action, but you do have, instead of a half stop, you sort of have a 1/3 stop or 2/3 stop, depending on which way you look at it. Which I always like those, because as you're closing a slip joint, since it is non-locking, that gives you a little step where you can kind of let it sit there and get your fingers out of the way and finish the closing action. Opening up is just as easy. We don't have a traditional nail nick, but we do have these fullers, dual on each side of the blade, that lets you open it quite nicely. I also like the little bit of a crown spine they've given you here, so it's nice and comfortable, both when you're using the knife and when it's closed up in your pocket. And you even see a bit of that crowning carrying through onto the back spring of the slip joint itself. And we do have a pocket clip for carry here. It's a right or left side, which is good because this makes this entire knife ambidextrous. We don't have a biased locking system. And you've got your hidden lanyard attachment point there as well to round things out. It's just a really cool iteration. I love seeing modern slip joints. I love classic slip joints too, but I love all kinds of knives, and I'm glad we're seeing more of these days. All right, the next long and pointy isn't a knife. This is the RMJ Tactical Custom Fat Boy Awls. And we have several of these in here right now, each with a few different finishes. These are hand forged at RMJ by Ryan Johnson himself, and they come in at $225 right now. They're W1 tool steel, but you don't really have to worry about edge retention too much, but you are gonna get a pretty good amount of toughness from that. Now this right here is the Valhalla pattern. RMJ, of course, they do have some Viking descent in their company, I do believe. And it even comes with a nice pocket sheath made out of leather, and it clicks into the sheath very nicely. It's pretty cool. Definitely has some good retention, and you've even got an ulti clip here on the side, so you could actually carry this inside your pocket and have access to this all just as soon as you might need it. You could also pop that off and put a small tech lock on there if you would like, if you want to carry it outside the waistband or clip it to something else. Now, as far as uses, he does recommend a few. Of course, it's an awl, so you could use it for leather working, but it could be used as an icebreaker, or an ice pick, I should say. You could open a box in a pinch if you don't have your blade on you. You could use that to pierce the tape and kind of rip things open. Do some light prying with it, and of course, marking surfaces with scribe lines is also going to work very well. And of course, last-ditch self-defense, you could also use it for that. All right, one more long and pointy for this particular video. We've got a couple new versions of the Kershaw Launch 8. These come in, like all the Launch 8s and most of the Launch series, right under $100, and 2 new colors right now. Both still have the carbon fiber inlays, and both have that black CPM 154 blade. but we've got a sapphire blue as well as this dark gray anodized aluminum options that have now joined the lineup. But as I said, CPM 154 steel, about 3.5 inches, and in keeping with the kind of stiletto shaped handle, we've got that long, narrow profile blade. Nice needle point, flat grind, full flat grind with an aggressive swedge here. So again, still gonna cut very nicely too. We've got a reversible pocket clip that can take you to either side. And if you've never experienced an automatic before, the Launch series is really a great place to start because the action is world class. Like, there's nothing to suggest here that you aren't handling a knife that's twice as expensive as this normally is. The action really is up there with the best side opening automatics in the business. Now, I'll definitely stake my word on that. Plus, this one's just such a cool knife to manipulate. You've got a good amount of length for EDC. You've got that protection from the built-in quillions here to keep things from keep your fingers from sliding forward or things from sliding back onto you. And I really like the way they've handled the front end here. You've got sort of this bevel, makes it really nice for pinch grips and nice detailed cuts with this excellent blade. We've also got a couple new colors on the Launch 10. We've got an OD green as well as this blue color here. I said sapphire blue before, but it's just blue, and that's the same blue that we now have on the Launch 8 as well. Apart from the size, the materials are pretty much identical. CPM 154 blade, anodized aluminum handle, and we've actually got a deep carry pocket clip in this case, which is reversible. You've got your hawkbill blade in this case, which is about 1.9 inches. So this is a California compliant automatic. And with that recurve shape especially, this is going to be good for any kind of cut you don't want to slip off your blade while you're cutting. You can do scoring stuff. It's going to be real handy. I find this type of blade handy for cutting cardboard as well as opening things like blister packs and that sort of thing. And if anything, the action on these smaller Launch knives feels even snappier. It's just so daggone fast because the mechanism is pretty much the same, but there's less steel it's got to move around. Price on this, again, also the same, right in line with the Launch stuff, right under $100 bucks. What I like about the Launch Series 2 is you get a lot of different color options. And while we're talking about color options, how's that for a segue? We've got a series of Flitanium G10 scales now in for the Benchmade bug out. I've pulled a couple of them here, but this is just a small sampling of a bunch of the different colors. We've got both full-size bug out G10 scales that are new right now coming in at $39, as well as mini bug out scales coming in at $35. And I pulled a couple of the colors that I think would go really well with some of the variants that are out there already. For instance, if you got one of the new orange mini bug outs, we've got orange G10 if you want to upgrade from that Grivery, as well as some nice jade G10, which would probably look good with the Stormtrooper mini bug out that came out as well. Of course, we've got the classic blue in both the full size and mini sizes. So if you've got one of those, the OG bug outs with those cool blue Grivery handles, but you want that upgraded material without changing the look too much, you've got that nice blue option. And red is always a good choice too, especially if you've got one of our Battle Wash handles and you like those and you like the red accents and the red barrel spacers, but you want to upgrade again from that Grivery. Good option here. In addition to that, we've got orange for the full size. We've got a slate gray or a slate blue, as well as typical black, if you want to check those out as well. All right, next up, we've been showing a bunch of new variants so far. We've got another new variant today. This is the MKM Farah, designed by Lucas Burnley, coming in at about $129 right now. MKM is that co-op out of Maniago, Italy, from a few of those different Italian manufacturers. This particular design was built by Mercury, who's part of that MKM group. And it's a really cool design. I've really liked it ever since the initial releases. They came with some wood handle options as well as some titanium. But now we've got both green and natural canvas micarta as an option. Makes it even more rustic and rugged feeling. It's kind of a matte finish, so you get a little bit of that texture from the weave of the micarta. It's going to give you a good amount of grip without it being too aggressive and kind of raising of a hot spot type of texture. Blade steel is still M390, coming in just under 3 inches, or right at 3 inches, I should say. And in typical Italian fashion, you've got that crown spine and the crown backspacer as well. This is a slip joint knife. Action, really good. You've got that half stop, and you can just hear that good snap when you do it. Now we've only got a fuller on one side of the blade, unlike that G-slip from before, But even if you're doing it with your left hand or your right, you can still grip onto it pretty easily because you've got plenty of actual spine of the blade to hold onto. So it's not really going to be a problem that it's just on the one side. But I love the lines of this overall. It creates a really good, really striking impression, and it's still just a very usable shape day to day. Now, in order to make it even easier to carry day to day, they've actually included one of their cool pocket sheaths. It slips in very easily there. Now, this is not a belt loop. It's actually got a magnet right here. So you can actually slip this inside your pocket and let the magnet fall on the outside, so you can carry it very securely, and it's not gonna, go knocking about in your pockets, getting scuffed up or scuffing up other things. And it's a little difficult to kind of extract the blade without also extracting the sheath, but you really want to treat it probably just like your standard slip joint pocket slip. I would probably just remove the whole thing from my hand or from my pocket at one time and pull the knife out and set that aside until you're ready to stick it back in. All right, in keeping with sort of the rustic vibe, we've got a couple of new fixed blades here. We've got a big new batch of LT Rights in lately. We got a lot of Northern Hunters back in, both the large and the small size. This one right here is, of course, the small Northern Hunter, coming in about 120. They've switched things over from doing a full flat grind on these knives now to a shorter flat grind, a saber grind. But the blade steel is still AEBL and it's still nice and thin, so you're still gonna have some really good cutting geometry. Got about 3.5 inches of length, so a decent amount, while still being very controllable. And that's really backed up by the handles too. This kind of Canadian belt knife shape, the way it tapers here near the front, makes it very easy to pinch and manipulate very finely with your first two fingers. This particular handle also has their twist finish on it in natural canvas micarta. You get these grooves running on both sides, but then the spine and the front side of the knife are still nice and smooth. Adds a little bit of grip without really adding too much of a blister raising spot. Some folks are really gonna like this for that little bit extra. I really do. We've got a few other models, including the large right now, large Northern Hunter, with that nice twist finish. Comes with a leather sheath. This is made by JRE Industries, and it's just a simple pouch style with a square bottom and a nice lengthy belt loop there. I mean, if you've got a belt that's not gonna fit through there, I'd like to meet you. That's a really big belt. But they're really nice knives, all handcrafted in America, up over there in Ohio. Lifetime warranty if anything does go wrong, but they're built solid. You're probably never gonna have a problem. We've also got another new variant of their newest model, which is the GP Medium. This particular one, I think they start around the 140, 145 mark. This particular one comes in about 209 because you've got some upgraded handle materials. Desert ironwood, which is awesome looking stuff, but unfortunately it is getting a little more expensive these days. But we just had to have this knife in with this material because it looks so good, especially when you put it against those orange liners. What's cool about this design, I think, though, is you've got, even though it's a shorter blade, you've got a full-sized handle to grip onto. Very comfortable. They shape these things by hand, so there's no hot spots, and they're secured both with epoxy as well as a cool 4-pin pattern on this particular one, as opposed to some of the others that have some Loveless style bolts. They went for something more classy here, and again, especially with this desert ironwood, it looks really good. The blade's just over 3 inches. We've got AEBL stainless steel again. I didn't say much about it on that Northern Hunter, but I love this steel. It's very finely grained. It can take a wickedly sharp edge, and it's very tough for a stainless too, which on something you're gonna take out and about and really thrash, that's always appreciated. Blade stock is 1/8 of an inch here, and you've got that high saber grind, so you're gonna have some good cutting geometry to go along with the good strength that's provided by that knife, or by that steel. Now you do still get the crisp spine. In fact, on both of these LTs you do. Something he's known for, you can use that as a scraper, whether you're preparing tinder out there or use it as a striker for your fire steel. You've got that built into the knife right there, and you don't have to carry something extra with you. Similar style sheath, but a little bit different. Also made by JRE, as you would expect, but instead of the flat bottom, you get a more traditional outline to it there, and your belt loop on the back. Now LT, of course, is first and foremost known for his bushcraft blades. This is another great bushcraft knife company, Hella Knives out of Norway, and we've got a new design from them called the Skog, coming in at 99 bucks right now. The blade is just a hair over 3 inches, and you've got that nice drop point shape with a Scandi grind, and that little bit of a swedge there at the tip to keep things a little bit narrower there. Scandi grind, of course, great for all your woodworking. It's kind of a double planed chisel. And you've got Hella's triple laminated stainless steel, which is a 12C27 based steel. Similar to AEBL, it's got a pretty fine grain and a good amount of toughness and can take a really, really sharp edge. And when you're working with wood, especially some of the North American hardwoods over here, as opposed to some of the softer woods over there in Europe and in Scandinavia, you want to have as sharp as an edge you can for doing those wood carving projects. It's just going to make things a lot easier for you. Speaking of those long projects, you're going to want to have a very comfortable handle too, and that's something that Hella always does extremely well. This is a traditionally constructed stick tang. You can see the retention point there at the back, and a nice wooden handle, beechwood handle in this case, and it just melts into the hand. It's just enough length for a nice small carving knife you could just spend hours whittling with by the fire. You've also got a nice leather sheath, which is more traditionally, or more Scandinavian traditionally inspired, I should say, with the stitching there along the back. All right, I've got another RMJ to show you. We've got more of these Kestrel Trail Lite Tomahawks with our KnifeCenter exclusive orange and black G10 handles. These come in at $480. They're made in the USA, and this is one of the smaller sizes of the RMJ tactical products, designed a little bit more for woods use or for actually taking out and around with you, so you don't have to carry quite as much weight, but it's still built rock solid. You've got 1075 carbon steel here with a tungsten Cerakote finish, and you've got some of those signature RMJ milling lines here on the side of the bevel itself, which of course disappear when they get that sharpened edge on there, which is razor sharp, both here on the leading edge as well as on the underside here as well. So while you could use this for a little bit of finer work if you choke up, the handle's a little bit thin there to do it, even though they do give you some gentle kind of jimping or gentle texturing there to give you more grip. Be careful because you do have that sharpened edge right there. But really this knife feels at home at its chopping tasks, smaller chopping tasks that it is intended for. It's just the right weight and length that you can still get some good velocity behind it and really whip this blade into your chores. It does come with a nice Kydex scabbard that has a retention strap here, and it is a pull the dot snap on the end of that strap. So once it's snapped in, it's not very likely to get snagged and pulled because you can only open it in the one specific direction. On top of that, it even comes with this nice little stuff sack here. You've got the pulls here that you can cinch close and then use it as a small backpack, zippered front, and a couple of pockets on each side, which is a cool little add-on. All right, last but not least, I've got a new Lite to show you. This is the new Perun Mini, which, nice and small, comes in at 70 bucks right now, but despite the size, you can still get a full 1,000 lumens out of this at its max brightness. I won't get into too many of the technical details on the different modes or whatnot. You can definitely check that out. But here it is next to my EDC, which is an S1R2, and it's a tiny bit smaller still. And both of these, which I'm just so impressed by flashlights these days, something this small you can get that amount of brightness out of is just insane. And also, like knives, I'm tired of looking at black flashlights, so I'm always happy to see some extra cool colors. This, of course, is a right angle design, and it has Lite's typical style of pocket clip here, which means if you have a breast pocket, you can clip that there and use this as an area light, which is quite nice. One of the things I like to do with my S1R is I can clip it to the brim of my hat and use it as a headlamp. You can't do that quite so much because of the right angle design, so to get around that, included here is a patch. It's a Velcro back, so you can put it, if you have a Velcro panel on your hat or any of your other gear, like a chest plate or something, you can stick it on there, and then you can actually feed that clip through the device there and actually angle it up and down. So it really does function quite like a normal headlamp, which is pretty cool. Plus, the orange looks awesome too. It's also got the magnetic base on the bottom there, like a lot of Lites, so you can stick it on a workbench or something else like that. Anything around you that's magnetic, you can stick that there and you'll be able to have your light and be able to use it hands-free. And of course, this does come with a rechargeable battery, and you can just pop this onto the included USB charger, and it's going to charge things right up quite nicely. All right, that's all the new stuff I've got to show you right now. Love to hear what you thought of the items below. Make sure to let us know your thoughts. And if you want to get your hands on any of these cool knives, we will leave links that'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com where you can get your order in. And make sure you're signed up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because if you're going to buy one of these cool knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. I hope you're all staying safe, sane, and sanitary out there. See you next time.